Hong Kong electoral reform officially enters into force. This was at the end of last month. The new law that introduces changes into the electoral system of Hong Kong entered into force on Monday, the city government announced. Down here it says, the Improving Electoral System Ordinance 2021 was published in the Gazette and came into effect today, the government said in a statement, adding that an improved electoral system can ensure that the city is administered by patriots as well as successful implementation of the one country, two systems principle. And what this is China tying up loose ends. Hong Kong was taken by force by the British Empire. It was reluctantly given back to China in 1997 during the so-called handover. But ever since then, the British and also the US have tried to maintain Hong Kong as a sort of foothold within Chinese territory, a foothold of Western influence and subversion, essentially. And with the violent protests and then the eventual passing of the national security law, which this article also mentions, and they say that the reform also creates an oversight commission to screen candidates and ensure that they meet the standards of the city's basic law and the new national security law. They're talking about this national security law, which was rooting out this foreign influence. So these protesters were not spontaneous or self-organized. They were trained by the West, they were funded, backed, and directed by the West, and ultimately they served Western special interests, not the interests of the people of Hong Kong or the people of China, which Hong Kong is a part of. And so this electoral law is ensuring that only people who are loyal to China will be in the government in Hong Kong, which is part of China. And it only makes sense. It would be like elections in the US where you have a state with a governor who has direct ties to the Russian government. It would be unthinkable. It would be completely unacceptable under US laws, actually similar laws. If you see the Western media complaining about this, it's because they're upset that the US, the British, the European Union, they are losing these different vectors of influence inside China, this ability to interfere and subvert Chinese political stability. They are losing the ability to do this because of the national security law and now because of this new electoral reform in Hong Kong. And I wanted to point this story out because there are a lot of nations in the Asian region, in Southeast Asia in particular, here in Thailand and also in neighboring Myanmar that face the exact same problem. US-funded opposition groups trying to divide and destroy these countries, destroy their relationship with China, and subordinate their nation, their people, and their resources to US special interests. Things like, not necessarily identical to Hong Kong's national security law or this electoral reform, where there's a screening process to make sure that candidates do not have compromising ties with foreign interests. I think it's a good starting point for countries in the region to kind of root out this foreign interference. And again, I just want to point out that this is interference the West itself would never tolerate being exercised over it in their own borders. So why should nations in Asia, why should Thailand or Myanmar, why should they tolerate this interference inside their own borders by the West? Of course, the answer is they shouldn't. They don't have to. Passing something similar to the national security law or adopting electoral reforms similar to this, where candidates are vetted, only makes sense. If you thought this video was useful, please like and share it. Think about subscribing. It's free to do, and it helps the channel grow. Check out the video description for the link to this article that I just covered, as well as to ways you can help support my work, like by becoming a Patreon member. You can help support my work month to month, and there's lines of communication that we can use to discuss things, share ideas, and kind of build a community around this work. To everybody who has been supporting my work, thank you so much. That's what makes this possible. And as always, thank you for watching.